problems. Jeez. Okay, I think I have this figured out where the notifications are off and my email, remember how it used to pop up? I just have to quit the email and take it off and it doesn't pop up. So we'll figure out this Zoom thing, you know. All right, cool. So we've got 5 people on the call right now. We've got about, let's see, 9 minutes, 10 minutes or so. So for the few of the individuals that are on the call right now, I'm not quite sure what last title that you saw, because we kind of changed the content. So it might be a surprise, but it's going to be a good surprise from kind of what I changed it to. So I'm going to do a screen share and go ahead and like bring up the deal. Horizont. Check out my drone videos down there. That was cool. I did that yesterday. One of my properties. Okay, cool. So today we will be covering week 6 out of 7 for It Doesn't Take Millions to Be a Queen. And today we're doing week 6 due diligence on apartment offerings. So that includes kind of a lot of different things, the building, the people, the market, the legal documents. And so I try to be pretty much as comprehensive as possible, kind of saying, okay, if I was a passive investor and I wanted to get involved in a project, what do I need to be watching out for? And some of this stuff too, because like if you start as a passive investor and you go to be an active investor, you have to know all this stuff before you can really go active, because you have to understand the deal itself before you even bother just putting the money and the other stuff together. So it's a good learning day. So what we'll do, like I mentioned, we'll network for about 10 minutes right now. And so about 12:10, we'll get started, and at 1 p.m.-ish, we'll cover Who is Real Estate IQ, our sponsor for the day. And then as usual, we'll do a Q&A at about 1:15. So if you guys are new to Zoom, here's kind of like a little helper slide. So if you want to chat, here's what the chat button looks like. Raise hand. Also, when you click on, again, this was a lesson for me, when you click on the icon either on the top bar or the bottom bar that has like the silhouettes of people, you click on that and you bring up who's in the meeting, there's a raise hand button. So if you want to speak, you can raise a hand and we can unmute and do that, I believe. And then also Q&A, we'll have a poll. So if you can see on the screen, here's an example of a poll. And then as we just had a pop-up right here, there's a poll. So if you guys answer every single one of the questions in today's webcast or webinar, you'll be entered into a raffle for some free stuff. So that's pretty cool. I like free stuff. So right here, the raffle. So if you are interested to win some freebies, all you have to do, like I said, is participate in the poll, and we will communicate right after the presentation is finished to make sure that we can get you your freebie and announce the winners. Let me go back real quick. So we'll just kind of talk, and then I will go into, well, that is my why, the icebreaker. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to open up the box where I can look at who's participating, and if anyone raises their hand, we can unmute them, I believe. Last time I had a problem with that, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so if you want to, raise your hand and you want to speak, now is the time to network, talk a little bit about yourself, especially if you have a deal. This is a great time to get a deal out there, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's, wholesale deal, whatever. Please put it out there, and please talk a little bit about, we're here to help each other, right? So I'm looking at the chat box in case there's anything in there. And then I'm looking at the attendees in case there's a raise hand and you want to talk. It's a Saturday. Usually people are a little more laid back on these calls. So hopefully if you want to just, open up and speak, the floor is yours. So should be able to see. So while I'm waiting for someone to speak or talk about what they have for deals or raise their hand, I'll just put out one offer that has nothing to do with multifamily, and I just know that it's a good deal. So I just wanted to put it out there. I've got a friend that has a few luxury style Airbnb houses in Dallas, and the houses are booked for months at a time, even through coronavirus. I've got some girlfriends that have a property management company, and that's specifically what they do with Airbnbs. They don't do property manager for like large apartment complexes. They do little flips and turns like that. So so the property itself is always booked, and they're wanting to sell the package of a few of them. They have, the track record they could show you of what the income's been producing. It's been pretty good. The guy's just moving, so he wants to not deal with them anymore. And then, I can help you find a property manager that does specifically those deals if you want it to like self-operate, or what the seller's willing to do is also include 6 months worth of his property manager doing the work. So just want to put that out there. All right. Da-da-da-da. So if anybody else has any deals, let me know, or let each other know, please, because it usually takes everybody about 10 minutes to figure out how to get on these calls, and we'll still kind of have people popping in. And I think today is going to be some really good information. I put it together, and this is actually some of the most popular content that I've ever put out there. And I actually added some more slides last night and this morning. Feel free, like I said, to raise your hand or talk whenever you're ready. I'll shut up. But so, as far as doing things, like all those things people have gone crazy for, I've kind of tried to put it all together in one presentation. I don't see anybody who wants to talk. Let's see, we've got 6 attendees right now before we get started. So I'll open it up to whomever. Or if you guys have any questions too, you can ask them now. And I've got my chat box open, so if you want me to read it out loud and answer, I'm totally cool with that. All right, if y'all want to interrupt, go ahead and feel free to interrupt me. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the icebreaker. And if you want to talk, you still have 3 minutes. But since I don't want you guys to leave because there's too much silence, that bothers people, I'll go ahead and cover my icebreaker and watch out for any raised hands or questions. So for me, the reason that gets me out of bed every day, and the reason why I do what I do in multifamily isn't really driven by money. Like, obviously you have to have the money to go buy the apartments, you have to have the money to operate them, to keep them in business, etc. But that's not really why I do this. For me, it's about getting my message out there as much as possible. And I know that when you do something that's different, so for example, there aren't a lot of women in multifamily real estate. When you're doing something different, you get noticed, so that's part of the deal. So that is exactly what is my why. I've noticed there aren't a lot of females in multifamily real estate, and I want to change that. And also, multifamily real estate has helped to create passive cash flow for me, which has also created independence. So for me, not having to feel like I have to be with any certain person at any certain time, live in any certain place, do any certain things to be approved of or whatnot, I have the cash flow to be able to do what I need to do. So I want to be able to give that to other ladies, and not just ladies, but also, gentlemen as well. But for me, I just noticed that, women, 60% of women, this is a Merrill Lynch study, don't invest because they cite not having enough information. But a lot of it is too kind of how we grow up and being taught to save and to donate versus invest, and women tend to be better investors anyway. So I'd like to have more females get into the multifamily space as investors. So that is my why. So like I mentioned earlier, this event is brought to you by Real Estate IQ, #1 in deal finding, 45,000 leads every month. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go over exactly what leads are available and what you can get, which is great because when you're building a business, when you have a deal flow, that's the best way to scale up your business if you're wanting to grow. So let me do this little testimonial real quick for y'all about Real Estate IQ.
Hey guys, guys, I'm here with Adam at Redneck Country Club at the Jet Landing event. And Adam has been using our system for a while. Adam, could you share with us your experience with our tool?
Yeah, so I love the tool. It's really been very useful for me as a new investor. I don't have access to the MLS, so running comps was something that was a problem. Now that I have the tool, I can run comps. It allows me to secure my first deal, and I'm going to market with it and look to, because of the comps that I was able to run and get it for the right price, I was able to secure a deal that's probably going to profit me somewhere north of $50,000.
Oh, fantastic. And by the way, we can also help you market your deal too, Adam. Thank you so much. And guys, our deal analysis suite is only $15 a month, and it's with unlimited comps all over Texas. So make sure you take advantage of this special right now. Thank you, guys. If you want to learn how to analyze deals just like us, make sure you check out this webinar on how to run comps.
So there is webinar galore on Real Estate IQ's website. So we've got, for these webinars that we've done, the 7 series that I am presenting right now, that's also on there. So if you want more information, oh, look, we have a poll. Oh my God. So here we go. Would you guys like a demo of services? Here's a quick poll. So again, if you want to be entered into the raffle to receive free items at the end, just make sure that you enter your information into all of the polls, or vote. I can't vote, unfortunately. And that way you can get the webinar and get walked through exactly what he was talking about, how to run comps. All right, so speaker today is me, Kaylee McBann. So I am founder of the Apartment Queen. We have 731 doors, actually, assets under management. As general partner, key principal, each different deal, there's a different role that I hold, because there's no way that you could do that by yourself. Nope, it's all about team. And again, I have a passion for helping others create independence. That is my why and gets me out of bed every day. So multifamily real estate has definitely helped me to do that. And then this is my really cool logo. I just want to throw it in there. So today, what we're going to be talking about is doing your due diligence on apartment offerings. All right, so there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. So we're going to go through, I think, the most important things that you need to understand whenever you are looking to do your due diligence on apartment offerings. So right here, this is our problem statement that I find. There are a lot of projects that only offer partners. So if you're an investor, meaning equity partner, 50 to 60% of the equity of the project. You'll notice inside the offering document, sponsors wipe out the investors only after returning the minimum projected. So for example, if they say we're going to get you 9% return, as soon as they're able to get you that much, and maybe even the project's 24% return, they'll pay you your money and wipe you out. But you have to look inside the offering documents to make sure that you can see where that is identified. So we'll cover this later, but in the PPM, again, we'll cover that later. That's where all of the disclosures are. So that's where you're going to be looking for this stuff. But I just see that out there. There's also a need for an easy way to get educated on risks and benefits of real estate and to show individuals the opportunities that are out there. So that's something that in our solution statement that we are aiming to fix. So we offer 70 to 80% of limited partners equity in our projects. So meaning we as operators technically own 100% of that deal. We'll go in and get a loan on the property. We'll raise the money that we need. But instead of going to a loan broker, or not loan broker, a equity broker for the remaining that we need to close, like the soft costs and, say if the loan is 80% or 70%, the remaining that we need to close, we'll go reach out to individuals, friends, family members, people that we know. And instead of offering them only half of the equity in the deal, we'll offer them 70 to 80% of the equity in the deal. So that makes it pretty sweet for ownership from that perspective. So that's what we offer, and it's more than most. We also keep investors in the projects for the life of the project, and investors are able to take advantage of the higher returns, higher than expected if they happen. They can absolutely, because we're all equal partners. We constantly also add investor education to keep partners updated. So we have a portal, and some of this information is part of that, like this presentation we're going through right now. And so it just really helps investors to make sure that they know what they're doing. That's the most important part when you're doing your due diligence is knowing what you're looking for, right? And so what I'm doing right now is kind of phrasing what we do, what's common in the market, what we see as issues, and how we have fixed that, or how you can watch out for that. So speaking of market, so currently right now we are looking and or already own in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, Phoenix, San Antonio. the reason that we pick these markets, and it's important for you to know as an investor, whether you're active or passive, it doesn't matter in apartments, is to understand why you would pick a certain market. You want to really, really, really narrow down exactly where you're investing. So for us, the reason why these are big target markets, in addition, we just added Jacksonville, Florida, so I'll have to stick that on there. These markets are landlord friendly, they're tax friendly, and they're business friendly. So meaning that you can run your business however you see fit. Obviously, there are certain laws and rules that are out there, but those laws and rules don't prevent you from being able to get rid of tenants who refuse to pay their rent. It doesn't prevent you from solving problems that would keep your business from becoming profitable. So that's why we choose these markets. Here is our business model, and this is an example of a project that was probably the worst return projection that we've ever given. But so we do value add C-class apartments. So this presentation is not really geared towards A-class or B-class properties. What we do is C. So that's a whole kind of different conversation as far as certain numbers that we use and whatnot. But the general outline of how we do things is pretty similar as far as, being able to pull profit out of the property. So when you're doing your due diligence on somebody who's giving you an apartment offering, like I said, these are pretty bad returns. So for example, like if you look at the 5-year total return, 86, almost 87%, that's the lowest we've ever projected. Usually it's around 98, 100% or so return on sale is just what that means. So that is our target return. The IRR, or internal rate of return, we're always targeting a 15% or higher IRR. And I'm not going to get into the details of exactly what that means because we don't have time on this slide. But this is just giving you an example also of the average annual distributions. So we are targeting a 10% cash on cash return. So that's what that means, 9.36% cash on cash distribution or return. So when you're looking at people's projects, I don't know how I feel about this. This is not how we do it, but a lot of people are telling me, based on the way that the market has increased in price and a lot of things, that we're no longer able to get that kind of return. We did this project and closed on this one in February. So I don't believe that that's the truth. I think you just need to get creative and know the right people and, and hustle and wait until you find the sweetheart of a deal and not do everything that's out there. So, people averaging returns at sometimes 6%, sometimes 5%, sometimes 7, 8. We try to hit double digits. So, like I said, this is like the worst that we've ever projected. Usually it's 10, 11, 12 plus. So the cash on cash is what the investor would be getting as a check in the mail. So it would be that percentage of your overall investment. We do it quarterly, so you'd be getting a check quarterly. So again, this is showing you on this big deal that we did, 264 units, that we did an 80-20 LP GP split. So again, like I mentioned, you can see projects out there that are 50%, 60%, etc. And so, I mean, you can always still, of course, invest in those projects, but you're just not going to be able to take take advantage of as much as you could if you were able to have more equity in the project. And then also, so market size is something we look at. So when you're looking at what the team is looking at for their standards for why they're investing where they're investing, this is just something that we do, 100K population minimum. Again, sometimes this can be variable depending on a few things I'm going to cover in a second. We use a 5-prong approach to researching the market. So you want to make sure the market is good, and to make sure the deal itself is good, and make sure the team is good, and the documents are good. So we'll go through all that. So market size is one of the aspects we look at. Let's go through how we validate a market. So this is what we do, and every different team kind of has a different variety or version of this. A lot of it's pretty similar because this is taking data that makes the project pretty stable. So number one thing that we look at when we're looking at a prospective market, because I'll look at, for example, if you see, Dallas, Fort Worth, those are big primary markets. Well, sometimes I'll see deals in, like I saw last week, Waxahachie, or in Denton, so it's like a secondary market in Dallas. And so you have to drill down to that specific city, not just Dallas's data, and then you go down to the zip code too. So what we do is we focus on population growth, and this kind of goes through all the nitty gritty, and I'm not going to read all of it. If you guys want a copy of this presentation afterwards, you're more than welcome to have it. In addition, it will be put onto the group that we have on Real Estate IQ's website, and we'll have that in the chat if you would like the link to go get this presentation afterwards. So what we do is we check for population growth, and again, this goes through over how many years. We want to basically see a positive increase by this amount based on the population of the city that you're looking at. So number one, population growth. Number two, what we focus on is median household income. Number 3 is median house or condo value. So again, this kind of goes through exactly what we need it to hit, what numbers we need it to hit. That we just don't want it to grow like 0.2%. There's a certain, threshold, and then plus where it's a good stable place to have the deal in. Again, these 3 first things are all coming from city-data.com as far as where we're pulling the data from. Also in our market validation, part of that 5-prong approach, focus number 4 is change on crime levels. So again, this covers this, it's from city-data.com. For the delta or change in the last, I believe it's like 7 or 10 years, whatever that is on this website, you want to see the crime decreasing steadily over time and starting and staying below 500, which I think it's like 500 murders or 500 certain type of crime per square mile. Again, on city-data.com. And prong number 5 that we look at for our market validation is 12-month job growth. This is huge, so I would say that my top 2 would definitely be job growth and population growth. So those are 2 things. If we're in an area where there is no industries coming to this market, and if there is no population growth on its own either, like what's the economic driver that's moving people there? And say what's to stop them from moving out, right? So that's, again, the reason why we look at those markets. We've got Austin with Tesla possibly coming in. We've got a lot of people moving because, again, we're landlord, business friendly, and tax friendly. So as a business owner, you have to be able to become profitable and stay profitable over time. And if the state is making it so tight that you can't, or charging you so much in taxes, or making you unable to get rid of tenants who choose not to follow the rules in their lease, it's a better place to invest in. So that's our 5-prong approach. So again, what we do, that's the market. And then we go down to the actual neighborhood real focus data. So the zip code and basically the subdivision, if you will. So the area that is very tight. So this is very important in San Antonio, Texas, for example, because it literally changes from block to block as far as crime and whatnot. But again, after this call, if y'all want more information, you can look at, this comes from, it's a really weird link. It's like GOOG/LE dot something. And again, you can message me after this to ask what that link is in our group. But basically, that's how you can pull the best job growth. And if you can't find the city you're looking for on job growth, you can check out bestplaces.org. That's another great place to look at stuff. And Best Places is another place to compare crime data. So we get this from city-data, but you can also compare it from that. So for us, if you're looking at a deal, for example, and I mentioned earlier that we have the minimum threshold of 100,000 people for the population of the city, because then you usually have major hospitals, you usually have an airport, you usually have, amenities that people need and reasons why people would stay there and be happy, not have to travel elsewhere. So these are things that are really important to us. Now, as far as the spreadsheet I use and how we grade, do we need all 5 every time, or what's your breaking point? So for us, I found that if I can find right now, especially because of, the current status of COVID, not really being sure, I used to do some deals where you would do, for sure, three of these, the job growth and the population growth was there for sure. But now I make sure that at least 4 of these prongs are checked off, or that we meet the minimums. So I've done, like I mentioned, 100,000 population. So the Waxahachie deal I was looking at last week was like the most amazing deal I've seen in about a year, and so I went really hard after it, but unfortunately the other buyer, I beat out 7 other buyers, but the other one had just cash. So they were able to close almost a $5 million deal in 2 days. So unfortunately I got beat out, but that population is, I think, like more in the 20s or something like that. So it's a suburb of Dallas that's really growing. But because it met all of the other things that we look for, plus more actually, it was a great deal. So that is our real focus data that we use for market validation. And you can come up with your own data if you'd like, but this is something that I find is very effective. So this is a way to vet your sponsors. So you looked at your market, now you got to look at your sponsors. So do your due diligence on me. Do your due diligence on anyone that is involved in a project with you, because you're going to be in that project with them for quite a while. So I'm not going to read every single one of these, but again, you can have the presentation afterwards. And this is just a really good, it's a note that I saved. So Q&A for passive investors or limited partners. And if you're going to be an active investor or apartment sponsor, one thing to do is know that you need to be answering these already ahead of time. So for example, in our slide decks or webinars, whenever we get to the point where we have a deal under contract and we're presenting, we pretty much have all this stuff already answered in there, or a standard Q&A that we'll put at the end, which, I mean, some of the stuff, you know, doesn't change. Like we'll always do C-class. We'll always, anyway, we'll always, you know, do an LLC. We'll always, anyway. So these are good questions to ask. And again, afterwards, if you'd like these, we can definitely get them to you. Here's more questions to ask your sponsors. So I find that beginner investors that maybe like they've done some single family and they're sophisticated and they're ready to start doing some multifamily because they'll like pull equity out of their house or pull equity out of rentals or something like that and just, you know, put it in a multifamily. I feel like they're too afraid to ask these questions because I don't know why, but they are. But don't be afraid to ask these questions. Again, most of these should be answered in any kind of like communication about the deal, slide decks, webinars, things like that. But if you're asking them, it's okay. So my favorite thing was when I have an investor that wants to have a phone call with me, like we've talked over email a couple times, they've looked at everything, they'll have probably like 5 to 6 major questions that maybe we didn't answer or they want clarification on or something, and we'll talk. And, you know, if they want to invest, they'll invest. If they don't, they don't. And it's fine. Like there's no pressure here. Like if this project doesn't meet your market criteria, return projection criteria, or if these questions aren't answered the way you wanted, that's okay. Obviously, we're not for everybody, and we don't want to work with everybody either. For sure, the most important thing is making sure that everyone that's in the project is getting what they want, because this, like, investing is like kind of for fun, you know. It's not something you have to do. So these are good questions to ask a sponsor. And then this is the next thing. So we went through the market, right? And then we went through the sponsors themselves. And when I've asked, I have a list, and it's a blog that's actually coming out soon here. It'll be a mini little book online. It's called 30 Tips for Limited Partners or Passive Investors. And so a lot of the things are the tips. A lot of them have to do with how to vet, you know, specifically your sponsor, even more than what I just shared. And then also those things will, sorry, my dog keeps licking herself. It's driving me nuts. So we'll have all those things that you need to go through, but then also once you have your team figured out and you have the market figured out, you're like, check, good. Then you need to understand the underwriting. So this is the other portion that we as a team at the Apartment Queen are working on. Well, actually it's finished now, which is exciting. So Carolina, pictured below, this is a screenshot. She actually developed this underwriting software herself. So as y'all know, we have a primary female facing team. So she's extremely intelligent, has a math degree, a master's in math, or I forgot, mathematics, sorry, from let's see, UC Berkeley, I believe. But anyway, she's extremely intelligent, from Sweden. And so Carolina developed her own underwriting software. So that's the other thing is, you know, when you go online and you're like, how do I do this? How do I look through all the numbers? There's going to be multiple tabs on your spreadsheet, and those multiple tabs are going to go through most of the stuff that we just covered. So it's going to cover the market, it's going to cover the sponsors, it's going to cover the returns. And then the biggest part of it here is looking at, and so this is how to do the underwriting. You don't necessarily need to do the underwriting as a passive investor. But honestly, if you really want to know what you're doing, I would recommend it. I would recommend, you know, going through these videos and kind of teaching yourself what to look for, what might be a warning sign. We pop in assumptions, for example. There's certain boxes like, you know, what would our insurance cost be? What would our taxes be? What would whatever. And so if you are looking at those and they seem way off, it may be a question that you want to ask the sponsor. And then in addition to that, looking at the cap rate. So cap rate, I'm not going to go through the whole definition of that, but it's the capitalization rate. And basically there is a cap rate for that market. And I call it it's called the infill cap rate. So when you're looking at what you're buying the project at, and then you know what the infill cap rate of that zip code or that city is, and she goes through this in the video. She's like, for example, if you are being told by the seller that you need to buy this at a 4 cap, and you know the market's a 6 cap, whatever they're asking for the price is ridiculous, and it's not going to make any sense, and none of this information is going to work, you know. So it's also good to know what our going in cap rate would be, so meaning what the current infill cap is. Then on the exit, at the end of the spreadsheet, you'll see terminal or exit cap rate, basically. And that cap rate, I'm not going to get too much into it, but because we always assume that we buy a deal for the value that it holds today. So we're buying a business. So the income it's producing today, you're looking through all these things. We don't, and you'll see like T12. So that's trailing 12. So that's what it's been performing out the last year, right? And then you'll see pro forma. Pro forma is what we project that we'll be running it at the next 12 months. So my favorite column is the 12-month or T12, because those are the actuals. So that's what we usually offer the price at, or we offer the, the price that we offer is from that information. We don't buy on futures. We don't speculatively buy like people do in the stock market. We buy businesses for what they're valued at now. So the exit cap rate is a little bit of like looking into a crystal ball, but it's not that difficult to understand. What I was saying is that when we underwrite, we were underwriting conservatively, meaning that if we think that it might be $250 a unit to do insurance, we'll just do $350, or if we think, so we're always erring on the side of it's going to cost more, not that it's going to cost less. And so in reality, if it costs less, that's great. There's better returns. So the exit cap rate is based on a poor performing market when you sell. So we're always assuming that we're going to have to be forced to sell in a recession, which doesn't make any sense. But stuff happens. So we always say that's probably what we'll have to sell it at. So without getting too technical and losing people, basically that exit cap rate needs to be adjusted up. So a low cap rate means a stabilized deal, meaning the people have pretty much flipped all the units, they've increased the rents, they've gotten all the bad tenants out, they've gotten this property to a pretty smooth place where if someone was to buy it, it would just almost self-run itself. So it's not a challenging deal. An unstabilized deal with a higher cap rate, there's a lot of meat on the bone and a lot of opportunity there, but it's unstabilized. So we assume that the exit cap rate on sale in our assumptions is going to be higher. So we assume that like stuff goes wrong, right? And we have to sell. So anyway, so if you guys are interested in seeing this video, her and I are putting together a portal and a page to our website where you'll be able to access the software. I do have, and she is going to charge for you to get her software because she also has videos that we've recorded that go with it. And Carolina is also willing to get on a phone call if you need help. So that's another service. But if you want a free underwriting spreadsheet, again, you can either message me after this or in the group chat or admin@theapartmentqueen.com. And I've got a couple of spreadsheets that they're real basic. They're not as robust as hers. They don't cover as much. Because she built this herself with a couple of hybrids of what I was using, she was using, etc. But if you just want to poke around and kind of mess with a sheet and see what it looks like and kind of whatever, we do have a free version. But underwriting, kind of having a general idea of what you're looking for, and you're going to see the returns. And again, I hear this, I think it's kind of stupid, but I hear that, like, for example, if I was to buy a deal where in reality my return on cash would be 24%, right? Average, annualized average for everybody in the project, that they're like, you don't want to put that on a deal because people will freak out because it just seems too good to be true. And so that's kind of the truth. But if you do see that and you don't know the sponsor that well, that might be another really good question to ask the sponsor. Can you take me through exactly how you got to this and what you used to get to that? You just want to make sure to protect your investment. So, don't stop investing. That's the big message here, is that throughout, recessions and depressions, money is still being moved around and it's still actually stimulating the economy. It's up to us as private people to stimulate the economy. Don't stop investing. But right now, more than ever, you have your gold or your coins or your money, right? And it's so important to protect that. So that's why I'm kind of taking you through all these different steps to really check the people you're investing with, the deal itself. So later on, it's not that much of a surprise. There's always stuff that happens. It's never perfect. People are not perfect. Obviously, we know this, but for example, I had an investor that wants to invest with me now and try to get me involved with a past deal that he is still in, and asked, if I wanted to buy it because they wanted to sell, I guess. So I went and looked at it, and the crime level was way too high. I had to do kind of a lot of analysis on it. So for me, crime is something that, like, based on what it was and how often things were happening and the police reports and things, it was just like a no-go, because if you're surrounded by crime, there's nothing you can do about it. If you're on the edge of like a gentrification or, new and upcoming areas, that's a different deal, but it's still kind of risky. So sorry, I won't get too much into detail. So underwriting is another good way to obviously really make sure that you know what you're doing and being able to check that. Here's another great thing. So as I've mentioned, and as many other people have mentioned, having a team in multifamily is so important. So one of the biggest assets to your team are your financial team, your boots on the ground team, and your legal counsel. So your legal counsel is huge. So this is my attorney, SEC attorney, Securities and Exchange Commission attorney, Cindy Merlis. She is part of our team. So this is just a little bit of a brief bio about her. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she's someone that, basically what we do is we set up our company agreements with them. We set up our purchase and sale agreements. So basically your contract for the actual purchase of the property, and then also registering with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And they're very experienced, and this is kind of like all this firm does, Calzer and Associates. So having that person to ask, you can even ask them to review somebody else's PPM documents. And I'll go over that in a second. So we actually did a webinar on Thursday, I think, this week. And again, I'll go through that in a second. But having the team put together is the message here that's so important. And I think that when you're looking at somebody else's offering, having more of a team put together than just, the two people that are leading the deal, because there could be problems. And so if you don't have support, there's no way to solve things. So it's important we have teams. So this is kind of what we went over on our call on Thursday, and this is from Calzer and Associates. So this is a slide that I thought a lot of people really liked. So giving you kind of a 30,000 foot view of what it looks like for a passive investor in a multifamily deal. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you kind of want to create your avatar. You want to know what you want, what kind of returns you want. Do you want to do value add? Do you want a stabilized asset? What cap rates are you expecting? Number of doors that you want minimum? Are you okay with the tertiary market? Do you just care about the returns? Are you more about, what exactly is what's your deal breaker? You got to know what it is. So when you're reviewing offerings, you know where to say, thumbs up or thumbs down. That's simple. Then also finding the opportunity. So that's usually probably the most challenging part, I think, of this deal. So for example, when we do securities offering, we do Regulation D, and this may change at the end of June and July, but right now it's a Regulation D, 506B or C offering. And the most often used one for us is the 506B or buddy offering. So once we're under contract, we actually can't use social media. We can't do meetup groups to announce the deal. We can't use our education clubs. We can't talk about it. So it's important, even right now, it almost swap two with one, is to get connected with those groups of people and stuff, and do things like this where you're tuning into, me talking, and, there's going to actually be a multifamily, it's an apartment investing summit that myself and I think 15 other individual and what I like to call free agent apartment sponsors are going to be speaking about different topics and this will be, like I said, in July. I think it's July 22nd, and it's going to be for 4 days. We're even going to be doing a Shark Tank thing on there where we actually will allow the individuals who get into the event that they have a multifamily deal, for example, that they want to do. And then we are the sharks, that all of us, panelists are the sharks, and they can present their deal to all of us. And then we're going to be able to bid on, if we think it's a good deal, we can either buy it from the individual, we can partner with them, we can provide the money, we can do whatever, needs to do to get it done. But the point is like networking and going to these events is really important. And now we're online. So you still can, there will be like breakout sessions. And again, if you connect with somebody that is a panelist, you can always reach out to them, via email or call after the fact, So anyway, back to the 30,000 foot view of the passive investor experience. Once you know what you want, and then once you connected with individuals, then someone might have an offering. So when they have an offering, you've got your PPM documents. So someone's going to give you, and this is basically the document that says, here's all the risks. And so most of the time, you're already experienced with either owning businesses or in real estate already, so you understand the risks, and that's something that's very important. Whether you want your attorney to review the PPM document. So by the way, PPM is private placement memorandum, and it's a big fat stack of papers. It's got the business plan, who's involved, how everyone gets paid, risks, rewards, all the things. So the best experience I've had is having someone else's attorney go over that document and see if they find anything that they're having questions about. Also making sure that they're going over the operating agreement. That's also very key. And so I'm going to show you on another slide the presentation that my attorney and I did Thursday, going over kind of what are the key things to look at in there, because it's a lot of information. I get it. And then again, you want to research the manager, the general partnership, every single person in that group. Having a relationship is really great. And again, you want to know these things like number of sponsors and key persons. You want to know the number of doors that each person's invested in. Most of that is covered in these presentations or webinars that we do when a deal is available. But again, you can ask, no big deal. Then the investment method. So when you're a passive investor, you're investing in a company. So you're going to be getting shares, and that's why we do a securitized offering. You're going to be owning securities. So these securities, you can invest as an individual, an LLC, a trust, a self-directed IRA, a EQRP, a QRP, a solo 401k. There's many ways to invest in or you can just do, like I said, cash as an individual. Whenever you're investing as a part of an entity, it really does help create a level of separation. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to go any more into detail on that. But basically, as most of y'all probably already know, being able to separate out, your personal assets from this business investment is always a smart deal to do, or idea to do. Then once you've looked at everything, you have figured out how you're going to invest, then you need to basically wire funds. And so if it's a self-directed IRA, there's a whole process to that we're not going to cover today. But I will be covering that with the CPA and Haley Gant from Quest at the end of June. So stay tuned for an event on that. We'll be walking y'all through the process of each different type of investment model and how it works to invest. So then once you have all that set up and funded, then you can wire funds and make sure to get your instructions for wiring before wiring funds. That's key. Don't if you think make sure you confirm it with the sponsor. So this is like a document, and again, I can get this to y'all, put it in the group. If you request it, go ahead and just put that in the chat. This is what we covered on Thursday. There's 2 pages to this, so this isn't a whole thing. It's just I took a screenshot. So what we were looking at, so as a very general way to look at a prospective offering, as a passive investor, obviously I think it's really great to have your legal counsel look over the documents for you. Because then they're also aware of what you're doing. And if there's issues, then that's the person that would already know how to deal with it. But for example, again, I'm not going to cover all the things on this, but you want to know how are distributions handled. So you would literally look in the PPM documents. You would be able to look in the company agreement as well. And every PPM and company agreement, they're different sponsor to sponsor. And basically they track along with each other. So the PPM is like this many documents and the operating agreement is like this many documents. But you just want to make sure that they're consistent, so that's one thing to check out. You want to know how are distributions handled. Again, it's always answered inside these documents, usually in the PPM and probably again inside the company agreement. Capital calls, that's another thing that I get a question on quite a bit, and that will be all outlined in there, and deal per deal it changes. So what would trigger a call? So right now, for example, if you're investing in a deal and we don't really know what's going to happen with COVID at the end of the year, me being conservative, I assume it's just going to happen again. And so at that point, for capital calls, is that just part of the deal now? Because, we really don't know what's going to happen. Whereas before capital calls, ooh, they were such a bad thing. But the big thing that you want to know about that, because you could keep putting in money, that's fine, as long as it's not draining out a hole at the other end. Obviously check that. But you'd want to know this before getting into the deal. How would that be handled? Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? Does every member have to participate? Can they not participate and just dilute their shares with new people coming in? How does that work? So it's good to know how does that affect your voting rights, distribution rights, things like that. So again, voting rights. Are you even acquiring voting rights, or are you just doing distribution rights? Many agreements, like most of ours, unless it was a really small deal or a TIC or tenants in common, or 1031 where we partnered with that, then it's all of us are active. Most of the time, the bus driver or the team, the active team or sponsors, are the ones that are doing all the voting. So as far as where things are spent, who's in charge of what, execution on certain items in the business plan, that is the team's job, right? Your job is to put up some capital and just sit back and relax and collect your checks, And so it's meant for, passive investing is meant for people who, don't have the time, don't want to take the time to learn years and years. I still don't know it all, believe me. And this is going to my 3rd year of still learning. It's crazy. They don't want to learn forever. Some people don't like that, you know what I mean? Et cetera. So you want to understand these few things, as well as change in management. Like, how is that handled? Again, is it the voting rights? Usually it's 2/3 majority vote is usually what's in like the boilerplate example of a operating agreement. But every deal, again, can be different. So these are just some really key things. And again, there's another page. So if you want this, just let us know, and I will put these resources I will get the resources to you. And so this is a question that I have, and then I'm finished. Yay! Who is interested in being qualified for our next multifamily investment? So all you got to do is go into the chat and put your email in there, or if you want to email me, admin@theapartmentqueen.com, I'll get you a questionnaire that we need filled out to make sure that you're pre-qualified for the deals. And then also, whenever you fill out that questionnaire, I'll be sending you these materials if you want them. You know, obviously you can specify in that email that you don't want them, and I won't send them. But that's I think that's it. Yep. Let me stop screen sharing and let Becky hop on.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Becky with Real Estate IQ, and I am coming to show you a couple cool things that Real Estate IQ has going on right now. Let's see, whoops. There we go. The first thing is our Real Estate IQ community. If you have not joined our online community yet, please make sure you do that. Go to realestateiq.co, which is our regular public website, and go to community. And you can join there up here where in the corner, it'll let you sign up. And then once you join, go to groups here, and we have a bunch of different groups, and Kaylee has one. So if you search apartment, here's Kaylee's group, Apartment Real Estate Investors. So come join that if you haven't already. This is where the link to the recording of this presentation will be. Also, we have some other groups. So based on where you're at, whoops, I have a Houston Deal Finders Lounge group. I also have a Women in Real Estate group. So please look for and join those, or look through all the groups that we have and see if there's something else that interests you. This is relatively new. We still haven't done our official launch of it, but we are just trying to, trying to get the community. And I think this is going to end up being a great place to connect, to find deals, post deals, find whatever kinds of things you need for your real estate investing. So the marketplace, here's where you can find funding, education, things like contractors, title companies. So if you want to do passive investing in notes, you can find out information about that here as well. And then under events is where you can find out about all of Real Estate IQ's upcoming events. So please go realestateiq.co and join the community groups. All right, so if you are not familiar with Real Estate IQ, what else we do is we have our deal analysis suite, which is for residential, but you can run all the comps that you want. You can also comp vacant lots and some commercial properties on there, as well as we have a repair estimator calculator and a deal analyzer calculator. We also have updated daily lists of motivated and distressed sellers. So we have these 10 types of leads, and the one that have asterisks are part of our premium package, which means they come to you with the skip tracing already attached and already on the spreadsheet, so you can start emailing and calling those people right away. Also, as part of that premium package is our commercial off-market leads list, which is anything that's owned by a commercial entity that's on the list of pre-foreclosures, code violations, tax sale. I'd have to look up which ones, but about 5 of those lists are on there as well. County Data Finder, here's where you could search for, if you want to start with a small multifamily, you can do a search for those and contact the owners. You can find out estate owners, absentee owners, whatever you want. This searches the county tax records. So you can just create a focus list of whoever you want to market to get your deals. And that's part of our deal finding suite, along with our MLS deal finder, where you can search for properties that are listed at a discount and also run comps. And that's all part of our deal finding suite. We also have our ROI Muse commercial and residential deal analysis calculators. These are really inexpensive. I think it's $30 a month. Maybe it's only 25. And you can get these calculators and they're easy to use and very powerful. So check those out. We also have some freebies if you haven't signed up for these yet. We have some heat maps that show you where the deals are. And we have our deal of the day, which is a live MLS deal that you could make an offer on or just use as a good educational tool to know what's going on in the marketplace. So just have to say yes to the survey if you're interested in getting any of those freebies. Also, if you were not online earlier and you would like to get a 45-minute one-on-one deal finding training for our system, just kind of put that in the chat. Say, yes, I'd like my demo. And somebody will contact you and set that up at your convenience. All right, so now we're going to open it up to questions and answers. And there was a question, Kaylee, a while back from Roy. I don't know if you saw that. It was the very first one. He asked, how long ago did you start in real estate?
In real estate, what year is this? Yeah, like 3.5 years ago. Yeah. So, I mean, I was in residential first and got pretty bored of it pretty quick. And then I continued to do residential, like from time to time. Obviously, I still have my, or not obviously, but I have my broker's license. So if I like you, like if you're a friend or something like that, I'll still help people buy houses or still list something. But, you know, I don't do it all the time because I don't enjoy the hustle. I like kind of sitting in my own little deal and being able to decide what's going to fit my business and what's not, and kind of have things come to me. So 3.5 years ago, to answer your question. There's another one. Rogelio, if I said that wrong, please type out how to say it right. You asked, as a newbie, what would be your recommendation as a starting point, i.e. 5 to 10, 10 to 50 or higher? So what I'm going to say is two different things. So I think that depending on who you are, what resources you have, how sophisticated or accredited you are as an individual, on and on and on. If you've already been in real estate, you already know a lot of people who are maybe in the multifamily industry. Again, it's a very different animal, totally different. Like all your contractors, they got to go. You got to find all new contractors, all new tax professionals, all new people that are specialized in this area to be able to save the most money, have the most profitable investments, have the least stress with your team. It's just key to do that. So that unit range varies based on like a lot of aspects, like how much cash do you have? How many partners do you have? Are you doing it by yourself? Which I would never recommend because I've done that. And that's been like the most painful thing I've ever done. I mean, in the beginning and through the next couple of years being in that deal, it's just been ridiculous. So having a team is so important. So if you're going to have a team already kind of formed and you kind of like take that time to follow that timeline, like I mentioned earlier, to kind of be aware of, you know, what sponsorships or what sponsors are out there, form a team, know your criteria, and get involved. Then you can go bigger. And I would definitely recommend looking at 70 units plus in that situation, because you can actually afford a full-time property manager, a full-time maintenance professional, and depending on how large it is, maybe you'll have several. But the reason why that's so great is because obviously it takes more off your plate, and so you're not having to micromanage people. Plus, the bigger the complex is at that point, 200 units or whatever, that property manager can usually, one person can run about 100 units per person. So you might need like two people, like a leasing office agent for 200 units, et cetera. But those people, especially the main office person, maybe their salary is like $54K a year, something like that. Their salary is still the same when you have 70 units. It's still the same when you have a larger complex. So when you have a larger complex, you obviously have more income, and you have the ability to save more money as well on your cable contracts, on your supplies, because it's economies of scale. So you can make some more money off of those type of complexes, plus they're more stable. So if you have a team built, long answer would be to go 70 plus. If you are doing it all by yourself, and maybe you've already done like a fourplex, because a lot of people, like for me, I started with 26. Then shortly after that, got another 24, so it ended up being 50. which after that point made sense to have a part-time office manager and someone there on site part-time, because it was actually far away too. That's the other thing. Distance is another thing. Is it in your city 30 minutes from you where you can be there and deal with issues, or is it, 4 hours away or another state? It's all variable based on that. But if you're going to start off and maybe you've already done a fourplex or something like small that's 1 to 4 family, and you want to get into multifamily, and you really want to learn it and you know nothing about it at all, and you want to minimize your risk and minimize other people's risks, I think starting at, like that 25, 26 units or 18 units, my buddy Dave did that, and he lived in it. So he obviously learned the day-to-day how to do everything. Your approach is different depending on how much time you have, how much money you have, how many resources, other people, so it's a very variable answer depending on what your life looks like and also what your goals are as far as, how much free time do you want, or do you want to be bogged down with so much stuff that, you'll never see your kids again, so it's a full-time business. So especially if you're learning. The question too from Jim, do you have to be an accredited investor? I answered that one. No, you don't have to be accredited for every deal. Accreditation status, I believe, is going to change as well. Right now, the main things, if y'all didn't know, it's like the 1, 2, 3 rule. And then I have another form I can send you directly from the SEC that it's like actually A through G, like different definitions of what accredited or sophisticated is. It's not just 3 things, but the main things are, if you have a net worth of $1 million or greater, and so that could be you and your spouse, but it has to exclude your primary residence. And I believe as well, there's a way to do this as a S Corp, C Corp, be an accredited business that's already been pre-established for a certain amount of time. You can invest again as an S Corp, as a C Corp, as an LLC, as a IRA, et cetera. So your entity can be accredited and then still count. But the 2 rule is that, say if you're a single individual and you make $200,000 a year or more, and it says for the last year at least, and considerably assume that you'll be making the same amount this next year, you're also accredited. Or the 3, or if 2 of you, it's a joint income, there's two people married or 2 people in a household, if those individuals combined make $300,000 or more together, then again, they're considered accredited. Again, there's more definitions of that, and sophisticated is really somebody who has substantial experience either owning a business or being in real estate already, and they understand the merits and the risks of what they're reading and what they're doing, and they fully assume, the risk. They understand the risk of real estate. Let's see, is there anything else? Did I get them all? Is that all the questions? That's it?
Yes, that means you did a good job explaining.
Or it was too much information. That's what I was trying to like tone it down, because like kind of when you get in the weeds, it's like I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot. And again, I'm still never done learning. I just got an update this week. Those underwriting spreadsheets, when you're putting in your assumptions, based on loans and lending and interest rates and reserves now we have to have, and many other things, we have to keep tweaking that like literally every week. So it's a never ending learning experience. So you better like learning if you want to be active in multifamily. Does anybody have any questions for me or anything that I can clarify from the presentation? I did skim over a few things, but for the most part I covered most of it. There's about 16 of y'all still in here, so I'm open for questions.
Quiet group today.
Okay, all right. Well, y'all enjoy your nap. Yeah, and if you have any trailing questions for afterwards. Oh, there's one. Thank you, Joe. Okay, what size and class are your apartments? So depending on how sweet of a deal it is, that can change, but the range is usually like in my, what I'm looking for is 70 units plus, like I mentioned, and class ranges from B- to C. I haven't done C-, but to where it's a good building, good solid, there's no distressed assets on my radar. So again, it can change, like that Waxahachie deal I mentioned. Maybe I did, I don't remember, but it's 53 units, which is usually too small for me. But just because of all the other things, it was in like an A-class neighborhood, 0 crime, 65% market population growth in the last 10 years. It's just like, it was just a total sweetheart of a deal. Like they hadn't renovated any of it. And it was like a 75-year-old couple that they're just ready to go. You know, they don't want to negotiate hard. So yeah, that's the range. So usually 70 plus and a B minus to C to C plus class. There's a good one. Cool. Do you hire interns for the summer? So that's a good question. So I would have to kind of figure out what, because obviously whenever you get involved with somebody, and that's how I started, I didn't actually do, you know, one of the big guru programs or wasn't a student of one of those. I hooked up with their former students who either went independent or they had been doing it for a long time and they were able to kind of share their experience. But you have to figure out what you can give, you know, to whoever you're working with, because these people, you know, like my buddy who taught me everything I know, he owns a construction company, property management company. He's in like 10 large apartments actively, you know, so he's overwhelmed. So for me, taking all of the questions I had and putting it into one email a week, and then being able to do as much research as I could on my own in the directions that they were giving me, but then also helping him with some other things, adding value. So if I'm hiring interns, it would really be to figure out like I can't think off the top of my head. We're working on a few things right now, like our app. We're about halfway done with development on that. We're working on an online portal. I have my marketing team kind of working on that. Our ads and all the marketing stuff is really, really well covered. We're really ramping up. You guys will see a lot coming in the next couple of months. So I would have to have a conversation offline about kind of what holes we have right now, because I'm sure there are plenty. I always have these quarterly goals, and there's a few that I'm sure always get left behind and you push them forward. Well, if we had a team member that could help with those things and or help Bird Dog find deals, I mean, that's what we need to focus on right now, is finding deals. So yes would be the answer, but we need to figure out kind of how we can give to each other, of course. What I usually do is, depending on who the intern is, what they have to offer, what they can bring, you know, what I'd like is to be able to take somebody and to bring them on to the next deal, you know what I mean? And be able to help somebody create more equity for them, cash flow, more net worth, you know, and be able to help them get to a better place. What is the city you're referring to on this last deal? So Waxahachie, Texas. So if you'll go on Google and put in Waxahachie, it's right south of Dallas. So we own an apartment in Red Oak, Texas. So it's called the Meadows. And it was probably about 7 minutes away from that one. But I live right in center of Dallas, right next to Love Field Airport, and it's about a 32-minute drive to there. So, I mean, it's the same thing to go to the suburbs like north. So, you know, actually further now to go to Frisco, it's about 45 minutes, and Plano and that kind of stuff is about 30 minutes. So it's just another suburb of Dallas that's growing a lot. So yes, I'm looking for more there, but I don't know if they're going to be as good as this one. So there's a couple areas, and it's like I said, like has no crime. So Waxahachie is like Waxahachie, something like that. I'm amazed. I dropped my sister off there for Thanksgiving in 2015 or 16, and I haven't been back since, except for driving through on the highway. Insane amount of growth. So let's see, city referring to. Joe, have you done a case study on your apartments? I don't know if I've done a case study on like the ones in West Texas, and then the ones pretty much that are like we bought a lot last year. So the ones that were last year, those ones, no. I think we should though, like post COVID, because like we're not fully back to things normal right now. We're close, but I think that would be a really good case study as far as like how we handled it. And honestly, our rents have been better collected and higher than last year. So yeah, kind of what we did to be proactive, because I had a few friends that said they didn't have that experience, and I don't understand why. But so to answer your question, no, but I just went and got some drone footage yesterday, which would help with that. So Joe, I'll probably have to put that on my list of things to do, because we do need to come out with some like company white papers, and usually case studies are really good for those. So I'll put that against, so that would be a good thing for an intern to help me with, would be to put together that case study, because I find that videos, pictures, collecting data, right now I'm just focused on finding a deal and making sure we have the capital to take them down. So I'm only one person. So yes, having an intern to help with those kinds of things would be awesome. If anyone else has any questions, I will be here for another 10 minutes. Betty. I am new to real estate investing and interested learning more in the multifamily investing. That's the air draw me to real estate. You may want to rephrase that for me. You're interested in multifamily investing, um, but the last part I don't understand. That's the air that draw me to real estate. So I think you might mean like that's the area that you're drawn to in real estate. And if that's the case, if you want to check out YouTube, I have a ton of videos on YouTube, kind of going through like what is passive investing, what is multifamily investing, what's the pros and cons of single versus multi, like all the things, very simple videos. And then we even go into videos about 1031 exchanges, how those work. Because if someone has a 1031 exchange, we actually, I'm working on a deal right now to partner together and to tick or tenants in common into a syndication. So it can be done, but trying to add as much education as possible, as well as, like I mentioned, the interview with my attorney, interview with the property manager, interview with all of our people. That's on my YouTube channel. And some of that is also in writing if you prefer to read on my website in our blog section. So yeah, if you want more information about exactly how this all works, I try to have it there to make it pretty easy. And then also, if you email me, admin@theapartmentqueen.com, we can set up a call if you want to, like maybe you have questions or things that you want to understand kind of where you are and understand your 5-year goals. That's something I'd, be happy to help with too. Any more questions? Oh, nope. Okay, Betty got it. Yeah, any more questions? I'll look for it for a little bit. But I think that about wraps it up. Yeah, hopefully this was informative. Hopefully this was helpful. That's my goal, to always give value. And again, if you want to get into multifamily real estate, like, we mentioned with the Real Estate IQ, and I mentioned about, having someone come help me, I am only going through the sources that I have made network connections and being able to get deals. But, if you are using other sources, or if, I've got friends in the HVAC business that find deals, and then I can bring them on as a partner. If you're able to go source some deals and then bring them to me, we can work together. So, if you want to use some of the resources Real Estate IQ has, as well as, one thing that my girlfriend uses, I think from them, she didn't like the skip tracer I gave her, was because they're doing mobile home parks. And so she wanted to be able to skip trace data and be able to find a certain type of person that would be selling one or own them. So I've been able to help her. So anyway, yeah, if you guys want to work together, obviously, Real Estate IQ has a lot of great resources. And thank you, Becky, for having me on today. And thank you for sponsoring today. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks everyone else, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Talk to you soon.